Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be discussing Plato's dialogue of Cratylus, which was on language. I'm going to be going a lot more into St. Augustine's work on language and linguistic theory. And then we're going to touch a little bit on its continuance in the 20th century and a little bit of psychoanalysis as well, and its ties in with that. So first, Plato's Cratylus was basically a dialogue about naturalism versus conventionalism language theories. Because it was a middle period dialogue, Socrates is the key actor for standing in Plato, and he is against Hermogenes and this guy named Cratylus, named the dialogue, So basically, Socrates is arguing from a position of naturalism, where words are not just simply sounds, where the other conversator understands the concept behind the word already, which makes them able to recognize it as a sign. Socrates thought that words themselves, their articulated sounds, have some sort of essence, some sort of derived intrinsic value, some sort of meaning which is valued intrinsically, absent of all parties and context. Now, this is in opposition to Cratylus and Hermogenes, which are arguing some sort of conventionalism, where to have a conversation, the other person has to understand what you are saying. And not only that, but they have to have the concepts in the mind which form through the articulated words. So Socrates disagreed with this, and Plato did too, standing in for Socrates. But this basically is a doctrine which is not held basically anywhere. Conventionalism is the view on language which basically everybody holds. I can't even think of a philosopher since the 1800s which doesn't hold a conventionalist view to some extent on language. But that's besides the point. So getting into Augustine, the main portions of his work I'm going to be speaking about are these two books. The first one is The Teacher. The second one is On Christian Doctrine. So the first one, The Teacher, is basically where he lays out his concept of the sign. So the sign is basically this signification when articulated to something which forms a concept in the conversator's mind, in the other's mind. So, for instance, Augustine would say that, to have a discussion with someone, there has to be a already preconceived understanding of the signs that he's going to use. Now, another case sign could be used is through itself. For instance, if he is walking, that is a sign for his action. He is walking. That is the action he is taking. That is a sign for what he is taking. Now, he also would say that signs, in some sense, are really just random sounds if they are not understood by the conversator, which seems quite interesting for someone at this time period to hold that signs can just be random sounds unless they're understood, which then make them signs. Now, moving on from that, in his work on Christian doctrine, he provides an example of a smoke signifying fire. So basically, the smoke signifies the closeness of fire, and to know what smoke is, you have to know what fire is, and vice versa. So to that extent, when you see smoke, you know there's fire nearby. But he says that if someone doesn't know what smoke is, they see the smoke, and that sign means nothing to them. To have that knowledge of what smoke means is preconceived before you can see smoke and then be like, oh, smoke means fire. So moving on to the 20th century, we're jumping ahead, but I want to speak about a little bit about what's known as structural linguistics by the theorist Ferdinand de Saussure. So in Ferdinand de Saussure, you have the signified and you have the sign. Now, Augustine would see this opposite, where the smoke signifies the fire. The signifier, smoke, signifies the fire, signified. Now, Ferdinand de Saussure would say that the fire actually signifies the smoke, in the sense of the tree in experience signifies the word tree. Now, this is something that also the psychoanalyst Jacques Lacan would disagree with. Now, Lacan drew a lot from Augustine, which is quite why I enjoy Augustine. I only found him really through Lacan's work. And what Lacan takes from Augustine is exactly this example of smoke signifying fire, where such you have to have an understanding, a preconceived notion of fire and smoke to understand the sign, to understand that that kind of causality, but more so just like that relationship between the two. And Lacan goes further and actually flips around the thing that I said about Saussure, where Saussure sees the signified over the signifier. Lacan sees the signifier over the signified. And again, this goes back to the smoke example. Now, there's many other examples which go more into a psychoanalytic theory, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. But yeah, I'm just going to go quick summary because that was quite a lot. But again, the dialogue Cratylus by Plato, where Socrates was a naturalist. He saw words have an essence and intrinsic meaning, where he was arguing against two people who thought that words have a conventionalist meaning, which is what we believe today, where you have the people in the context of the conversation must know what you are signifying and know the concepts which are going to be formed in their mind when the articulated word is spoken. Again, if I say cat, you know what cat means because you know what cat means. If I said blah, 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 you don't know what that means. But I was like, oh, well, I meant a cat. You'd be like, no, you didn't mean a cat. I didn't have that preconceived notion. The sign was not recognized for me. Jumping on to Augustine again, we talked about how the smoke signifies the fire. This relationship between the two is always preconceived. And a little bit of scholarly input here. So Augustine differs from Plato here, which is quite rare, really. He was tried and true Neoplatonist, but you could say he's drawing more from like Aristotle, kind of, where there's less of this focus on like the essence intrinsic of the things, and more so this like recognition that the world or environment shapes our experience. Again, that's a little bit off note, but that's going to about do it for this video. If you enjoyed this discussion of linguistics, I'm willing to do more videos on this. Linguistics is really interesting to me and the way it comes about. But yeah, that's going to do it. So I hope everyone had a great day, and subscribe and like the video.